Okay, we'll bring this meeting to order. Everyone can please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, for the benefit of the public, the purpose of this meeting is to have a hearing pursuant to the Pennsylvania School Code in connection with the contemplated closure of the Amity Primary Center. I'm going to ask Mr. McCullough, the Board Secretary, to do a roll call, and then for the most part, we're going to turn this over to Dr. Otto and our solicitor, David Comer, to go through the procedure. And at the end of the meeting, we'll be taking questions during public comment or to hear what you have to say. And the normal procedures for taking public comment apply here as well. You'll approach the microphone, give us your name, state your address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Okay? Having said that, Mr. McCullough, could you take a roll call, please?
Mr. Seminaro? Mrs. Hamill? Here. Mr. Kurtz?
Here.
Mr. McCullough? Here. Mr. McLaughlin?
Here.
Mr. Potts?
Here.
Mr. Shaheen? Mr. Wolf?
Here.
And Mr. Basil?
Here.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is David Comer of Fox Rothschild. I'm going to give a brief explanation of the need for the hearing and what's going to happen tonight. The purpose of this hearing is to consider the official closure of the existing Amity Primary Center with an address of 2144 Weavertown Road in Amity Township. In light of the budget deficit faced by the school district's administration is recommending the closure of the school and redistribution of the students currently attending it. For that reason, we have convened this hearing under Section 7-780 of the Pennsylvania Public School Code. There, the school code provides that a public hearing is required whenever a school board is considering a closure of a public school. That hearing is required to be not less than 3 months prior to the final decision of the board calling for such a closing. Furthermore, Section 13-1311A of the school code gives the board the authority to close any one or more of the public schools in the school district. The Board of School Directors will not be making a formal decision this evening whether the existing Amity Primary Center will or will not be closed. Instead, the next 3 months will be a consideration period for the Board of School Directors to consider the issue before it is permitted to take a final vote. After the submission of items into the record tonight, the school district administration will be making a statement regarding the contemplated closure of the Amity Primary Center, followed by comments from the board and comments from the public. Tonight's hearing is the hearing required by Section 7-780 and again is solely designed to determine whether or not the school district should close the Amity Primary Center. Therefore, during the public comment period this evening, the board may not recognize questions or testimony regarding other issues than the issue we are here for tonight. Before proceeding, there are a few items to enter into the record. There's a board reporter here tonight. Please note that there are exhibit booklets that were in the back of the room that have been prepared for the public's review. The exhibit booklets include the documentation that will be submitted into the record. The first item is marked as Exhibit A. It is a certified copy of the board resolution that authorizes and directs various steps, including this hearing related to the proposed closure of the Amity Primary Center. The resolution was adopted by the board at its regularly advertised meeting on January 14, 2013. The second item that's marked Exhibit B is the proof of publication of the notice for tonight's hearing. The notice appeared in the Red Eagle, a newspaper of general circulation, on January 17, 2013, which is at least 15 days prior to tonight's hearing, as required by the school code. Also, I would note that on January 16, 2013, the school district notified the Berks County and Amity Township Planning Commissions of the board's potential action regarding the Amity Primary Center as may be required by the Pennsylvania Municipality Planning Code. A copy of that certified letter of January 16, 2013 and the subsequently received return card from the Planning Commissions is marked as Exhibit C. The school district, in response to its letter to the Berks County Planning Commission, received a letter dated January 24, 2013 from the Berks County Planning Commission that, in short, provided that the Planning Commission has no comment regarding the proposed closure of the Amity Primary Center, and that it would recommend the school district consider retaining the facility if it were to close the school. A copy of that letter from the Berks County Planning Commission is marked as Exhibit D. The elementary school closing feasibility report that was prepared by the administration has been marked as Exhibit E. Next on the agenda is a presentation by Dr. Dariato, Superintendent, and Mary Beth Portia, Assistant to the Superintendent, which will discuss and review the elementary school closing feasibility report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Comer. I would ask all of you to take a look at that packet very closely. Due to the amount of information that you're going to be presented with tonight, it has all been summarized in that report, and it is my plan to read what is in that report. So if you would go to Exhibit E and follow along with me, I'm just going to read that pretty much line by line and paraphrase where is necessary. So if you'll find that for me, you'll see the first part called the preface. Let me begin reading, and just as for the record. During the 2011-12 school year, the board requested that the administration conduct an elementary school facilities classroom usage study to determine the extent to which it might be possible to close down an elementary building due to a decline in enrollment. The administration presented the results of that 2011-12 study to the Facilities Committee on March 5th, 2012, a little over a year ago. The administration's recommendation was to leave all existing buildings open based on the building usage needs anticipated for this year, 2012-2013. As part of the budget process for the 2013-14 school year and facing a current $5 million gap in the preliminary budget, the board has directed the administration to re-examine the feasibility of an elementary building closure. The preliminary results of that feasibility study are contained in this report and in your hand if you're looking at it. The executive summary. As we examine the feasibility of closing an elementary building, we wanted to make sure any recommendations that come forth would meet the following 7 criteria. 1, the closing of any building would minimize any program curtailment. 2, it would minimize the relocation of students of any attendance area. 3, it would minimize any new costs to the district. 4, it would incur significant cost savings to the district. 5, it would comply with all federal, state, and local legal requirements. 6, it would leave all elementary attendance areas of the district with equal program offerings. And 7, it would negate the need for the district to build a new elementary facility for a decade or more, subject to current enrollment trends. As part of our study, we reviewed current student enrollment numbers, current staffing, current program offerings, and current classroom space and availability. Based on our review of this data and information, and by fully meeting the 7 criteria we established, as I just mentioned, to formulate our recommendation, it is the finding of the administration that it is feasible to fully operate our elementary program for the 2013-14 school year and beyond by closing the Amity Primary Center and relocating grades 1 and 2 to the Amity Intermediate Center, and starting next year, we would relocate all Amity primary kindergarten classes to the Monocacy Elementary Center until such a time that a shift in enrollment would require a different plan. This would mean, if it was implemented, that AIC would house grades 1 through 5, MEC and BEC would remain K-5 buildings, and their attendance areas would not be impacted in any way. In addition to the summary that I've just read into the record, additional information was gathered to support the recommendation for closure. This information includes the following: a series of frequently asked questions regarding the impact of the APC closure, floor plans for AIC, APC, and MEC that reflect current usage and proposed new usage. We're going to show you those floor plans this evening after I'm done reading into the record. We will not be putting them out on the web for review due to security concerns. Comparative elementary enrollment data we will be sharing with you, and staff/cost reduction projection charts. So let me start, if you go to the next page of the exhibit, with the frequently asked questions. And we tried to anticipate some of the questions that we got. Once you hear the answers to these, it may answer your question, it may not. You can feel free to get further clarification. Number 1, why close APC and not one of the other elementary buildings in the district? APC is the district's smallest elementary building currently in use. It is also the building with the smallest total capacity and the building with the current lowest enrollment in the district. Furthermore, the closure of APC would not disrupt any elementary attendance boundaries or impact students in our other elementary attendance areas. This closure would still allow us to maintain the current level of elementary school programming that we currently offer. This plan allows us to avoid any elementary redistricting. Number 2, can AIC hold the current enrollment from APC without overcrowding AIC? Yes. You will see that AIC has sufficient capacity to hold the students who will no longer be in APC. We decided to place all new kindergarten students in the Amity area to Monocacy Elementary Center due to the availability of in-classroom bathroom facilities at MEC. When AIC was originally designed, it was not constructed with kindergarten students in mind. We could theoretically place all the Amity area kindergarten students at AIC, but to do so would put us at our upper level of recommended capacity and would leave some kindergarten students without in-class bathroom facilities. Number 3, what will the district do with the facility if it is closed for student use? The district has a number of options. Reuse the facility, reuse of the facility and lease parts of it, lease the entire facility, or sell the facility. It is the administration's recommendation to reoccupy part of the space as a district administration building and determine what lease options we may have for certain sections of the building. The district currently leases space for its district administration at the Matthew Brook building in Birdsboro. That costs the district close to $100,000, inclusive of utilities, on an annual basis. This cost could be eliminated, saving the district $100,000 annually going forward after the 2013-14 school year ends. Furthermore, the district has already explored the feasibility of relocating central administration to the high school at a one-time renovation cost of about $85,000, which would also put us then administratively in the high school. If we go with this plan, that would eliminate the need to spend that money and reclaim that space at the high school. What I'd also like to add, in terms of there will probably be some commentary on selling the facility. I just want to make it clear that we, as of today, I made a call to Union Township and I made a call to Amity Township to find out the number of potential new developments that are about ready to spring forth should the economy improve. And from all the indications we're seeing, the economy is about to make an improvement, at least a slight improvement. There are 6 separate developments that we're aware of that are already approved through the design phase process at the township level. 5 of them are in Amity Township, 1 of them is in Union Township. They would comprise 437 new homes. When we do enrollment projections, we tend to project 1.5 to 2 students per home. So if we have another boom over the next 5 to 7 years like we had prior, we could be looking at the potential of anywhere from 750 to 1,000 new students in Daniel Boone. So please keep that in mind as you make your commentary regarding what to do with the building. What are the anticipated, question number 4, what are the anticipated cost savings that would result from the closure of APC? And I'm going to amend what I have written here for you because we did some more research. In addition to the savings and potential revenues referred to in item 3, we anticipate a savings. We had a personnel meeting today and we realized that additional staff could be consolidated. The potential savings, I'm going to round it at this point because that figure could change here and there as we go along here, to approximately $600,000. That savings would be accomplished even though the number changes, the next sentence stays the same. That savings would be accomplished without any further impact to programs and services to students. Question number 5. Will any educational programs and services be lost due to the closure of APC? Kind of said it already. No. While the budget process, I'm going to be very clear, while the budget process, regardless of what happens with APC, the budget process may necessitate program cuts and reductions, independent of this discussion tonight. The closure of APC in and of itself would not result in the elimination or reduction of any program in and of itself. In fact, money saved from the closure of APC, the $600,000 that we project, may actually help save programs that are currently slated for reduction or elimination. And I do apologize, I did edit this report today. I'll be happy to post this on the web tomorrow. This one is not in your packet. It's question 6. Why would the district invest $9 million in a building and now close it? Prior to the current administration's arrival in August of 2008, the previous administration, during the 2007-8 school year, planned a renovation project for the Amity Primary Center, and funding was approved for a bond to finance that project in August of 2008. That was my first official board meeting here. The reason the recommendations were made to renovate the building back in 2007-2008 were that the enrollment was stable and still projected to rise at the time. And I would ask you to remember, that was 6 years ago. 6 years ago is a long time when you're considering enrollment projections of students. And most importantly, the building systems were failing. The roof was 38 years old and leaking regularly. Windows were leaking in various parts of the building. The boiler was failing. The sprinkler system was leaking and had leaked onto the gym floor, resulting in an expensive repair, which was probably covered by the Renegade. The univent cores were constantly leaking. The PA and fire alarm system were deteriorating. There was no air conditioning in the building, causing excessive heat on the third floor. And it was difficult to regulate heat in the months like February and now in the cold weather. The recommendation to close it now is a result of the factors that the district is currently facing and will be facing going forward, with funding and decreasing enrollment. So that concludes the frequently asked questions part. If Mr. Comer, is the enrollment chart in the packet?
It is, yes.
If you would refer to the next exhibit, elementary enrollment data, I'm not going to walk you through line by line here. Again, if there are questions that you have over the course of the 3 months in which the board has to weigh in on this, I will be happy to answer any questions anyone has at any time. You can email me, call me, come in and visit with me. We can even take you around the building if you want to see it. So the top chart that you see there, I'm going to refer to the first line only at this point. Starting back in 2010, 2011, and for the record, the state asks us to gather what is called third day enrollment figures. The figures that you see here are the official third day enrollment figures that we submitted to the Department of Education. They may vary here and there throughout the year with move-ins and move-outs, so if you go researching that and they don't exactly match one for one, that's going to be my answer. These are third day enrollment figures. So if you look at the 2010-2011 to what is projected to be the enrollment in 2013-14, we are minus 202 students. That is obviously a downward trend. The numbers that you see under the 2013-14 chart, AIC 649, MEC 502, VEC 421, those will be the enrollments in that building if the board elects to accept the administration's recommendation to close APC. None of those numbers are over the capacity of any of those buildings. As a matter of fact, they're under. The next chart represents AIC. You can see they're cross charts, really. The next chart that says AIC, APC. The 13-14 is the one you should pay attention to. That would be the new AIC, APC combos population next year. MECs is in the next chart going down. And BECs, no effect. Birdsboro Elementary Center enrollment is minimally, not at all. They're not in this equation in terms of enrollment shift. And finally, I did add another chart here that I will put out on the web for you to see. It shows just what AIC, if we don't do anything, this is what the enrollment would be next year. If the board says, you know what, we reject your recommendation. AIC would have 418 students projected. That's 12 less than it has this year. And when you get to the floor charts, we already have 12 classrooms empty in AIC. An APC, the enrollment would drop from 363, which is its current enrollment, to a projected enrollment of 316. So that's why we're bringing this forward to the board for its consideration. We knew we were close last year. The board asked the administration to do an extensive study. We did. We didn't think we were quite ready for it. The terrain has changed. Finally, there's a chart in there, and I will amend that accordingly. As I said, there are additional savings that can be found, and we will obviously be taking this back to the full board for discussion and discussion through our facilities committee meetings and budget meetings moving forward. But I want to let you know that we were able to find 2 other positions that could be consolidated, which basically increases that $469,000 number to approximately $630,000. So, said in another way, if APC would close, the board would have $630,000 at its disposal to reallocate as it chooses throughout the budget process. That will change. We know we might have some moving costs and some other costs which may change, so we will finalize that number as we get closer to the time of the decision. But it will be very close to that, depending on decisions that are made. So at this time, I would like to turn over the microphone to Mrs. Torsha. And the reason that I have asked to do this as a dual presentation, for those of you that are unaware of it, although I'm taking from the audience that most of you do know who Mrs. Torsha is. Mrs. Torsha arrived here in 2007, 2008, a year before me. And at that time, she was the APC principal. She was also the AIC principal. So from a building level, we have the expert from that building here to explain to you. She helped me with this plan in terms of the space usage. So if anyone knows the building better than her, I don't know who they are. So Mrs. Torsha, with that introduction, no pressure. You might want to use a mic there, Mary Beth.
Okay, if you can see the chart, the floor plan of Amity Intermediate Center, that reflects the spaces in red, writing in red, reflect the rooms that are open currently to this day. There are 10 large group, regular classroom classes that are open that do not have students in them, and there are 2 small groups. Currently, we have 17 classes at Amity Primary Center. So feasibly, we would not have been able to roll those classes into Amity Intermediate Center for the 2012-13 school year. But we will be able to move the 4 kindergartens into first grade, which would be 4 kindergartens go to first grade, so we have 4 first grade, and the 7 first grade will move into the 6 second grades because there is some room for compaction of those classes, which would give us 10 classrooms, which we could easily place at Amity Intermediate Center for the 2013-14 school year. I will show you Amity. I will show you Monocacy Elementary Center and its availability to be able to accept the incoming kindergarten for the 13-14 school year. And again, if you take notice, there are, on the floor plan, you can see classrooms that are open. And there are 3 classrooms on the second floor that are open that do not have full classrooms in it. Although Mrs. Hefter has been utilizing her classroom space quite wisely and has been doing interventions there, they're not everyday classrooms where the children are reporting to a home. So those would be available. There is some other classrooms that are being used for speech or for the school psychologist, which also could be relocated. So again, there's the example space at Monocacy Elementary Center to take on what we're suspecting would be probably 4 kindergarten sessions, which would equal 2 classroom spaces. Amity Intermediate Center for the 2013-14 school year, there would be additional space that would open due to a 4th grade going down to 6 instead of 7. That would give us an 11th classroom, and there's a potential for an additional classroom to also open up if the board does adopt the budget and make some of the changes that are recommended. So there would be ample space to fill 10 classrooms that would be coming over and space left over.
Just a few final comments. Thank you, Mrs. Torsha, before I turn it over to the board. I've been in other districts where we've had to go through this, and you hear horror stories about art on a cart, computer classes kicked out into the library. All of those dedicated spaces will stay with this plan. Art teachers will keep their art room. Music teachers will keep their music room. Computer teachers will keep their computer labs. We do not have to eliminate any of that. So I just wanted to make sure that was entered into the record as well. And I would just like to say, again, while it may not be a popular decision, it is my job to watch your money. It is my job to watch the program. And it is my recommendation that the board move forward with the closure of this building for the reasons already outlined in the document that you have in front of you. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Dr. Otto, and also thank you for your work on this, and thank the rest of the administration for looking into this again and coming forth with your recommendation. Do I have any comments or questions from board members on any of the information that we've seen tonight? It's basically a reflection of what we've already seen earlier.
Obviously, there's no disruption to any. Maybe. Okay. Obviously, there's no disruption to any program at this point from what we've seen this evening.
No, there would not be any disruption to program. Everything would move with the children. They would have art, they would have music, gym, etc. Reading specialists would be in place. Everything would go with them.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay. If not, I'm going to turn it over to the public to answer questions or comments from them. Yep. Hold on one second.
As Andrew said, the next item on the agenda is a public comment, and this hearing is being recorded by a court stenographer. So I would ask that, starting with the first person who signed up to speak, that each person come forward and speak for up to 3 minutes. Once everyone is signed up, has spoken, we will determine if there's more time for additional comments. And if you have a comment, please come to the microphone, speak slowly, state your name and address. And also to assist the court stenographer, I would request that you please spell your last name so we create a record of this hearing. And just remember, if you speak too quickly or too softly or otherwise unclearly, your comments might not reflect what you intended to say. And finally, keep in mind that the purpose of this portion of the hearing is for the board to hear your comments and concerns. It's not necessarily an opportunity to discuss or debate issues, but it's a chance for the board to get feedback from the public and to hear the public's comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Coleman. Having said that, are there any public comments or questions?
Mrs. Torshey, you spoke to Monocacy Elementary Center being able to make use of the speech room and the school psychologist's office as kindergarten rooms?
No,
It was hard to see.
I just referred to that there was space within that building for growth, but there were open classrooms. I didn't say that they were to be used for kindergarten or anything. I just mentioned that there was rooms that were not used for classrooms currently. There aren't third, fourth, fifth, etc. in those rooms.
Okay, so that's what I wrote down that you said as you were speaking.
I was just clearly pointing out that in Odyssey Elementary Center, they have open, available classroom space.
Some of the classroom space is currently being occupied because we have some extra space with people who do not need a full classroom space in the event we have kids to put in that space.
Okay, so then where will the speech therapist go, the school psychologist? There'll still be space for them as well?
We will find space around the district for them, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional public comment?
Rich Martino, 225 West Mills Drive. My last name is spelled Martino. I have some concerns about some of the things that were said. I realize we can't do anything to change the doesn't seem like it's now worth $9 million, but future usage is a problem. The slideshow would have been beneficial if it had showed also the floor plan of the high school and all the empty space in the high school and the proposed usage of the APC.
I don't want to interrupt, but we're not going to really discuss the use of the building beyond whether we're going to close it down or keep it open at this point in time. So the board hasn't rendered a decision on how we're going to use the building, and it's not really the reason for this debate and discussion tonight. If you follow me. So what we're going to try, we're going to weigh the benefits, the pros and cons of whether to close the building or keep the building open based on need, not on future use.
Okay, I mean, I only mentioned Mr. Basil because Dr. Otto clearly said he already thinks the administrative officer should go. So, okay.
Yeah, the board has not made any decisions on where the administrative officer, just for the public record and the public understands this, the board has not decided where the administration offices are going to be after its current lease expires in the Matthew Brook building. And the Matthew Brook building lease does not expire for another year. So, until that's on the time horizon for us to start making decisions as to where administrative offices need to go, then we'll make that decision at a time. But it's really not germane at this point, more than 16, 18 months before that lease expires.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Appreciate your comments, though.
Monica Lacey, Schoolhouse Court in Douglasville. With closing of APC, did we talk about classroom sizes? How large? What would be the maximum number in one classroom?
It won't significantly affect our current our current class sizes.
The current class size is what?
I would say an average of somewhere between 22 to 25. This plan in no way increases class size. There might be budgetary decisions that do that. This plan does not.
You had talked about if we close APC and then students are moved to AIC, everyone would have a classroom. There wouldn't be anyone on carts, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, art, speech?
Nothing. Nothing would be satellited.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions from members of the public?
Tom Schack, 729 East 2nd Street, SCH-ADT. First, I want to thank you for having this document available. Just reading through it, answered more than half of my questions.
Good. Great.
So whoever put it together, I know more than one person. Thank you.
It was a team effort.
The last page, which has the savings, and on print you have $469,033.62. You're telling me now that number should be $630,000?
Approximately.
I have a question under librarian which says $121,000.
That's correct.
How much of that is salary?
Tom, I can get that for you. I don't know. But that information is available. I'll be happy to get it for you.
Is that?
It is salary and benefits.
It is salary?
That's correct.
Okay. The comments that were made recently, that music will go to music and art will go to art and so forth. But in your preliminary budget, don't you have a 40% cut in those items?
In the preliminary budget, there's a proposal to discuss the elimination of the elementary band pull-out program and also to reduce the encore for music instruction. Yes.
And physics too. Did you make a statement there was a 40%? You made the presentation. Did you say there was a 40% cut in those things?
Which presentation are you referring to? The one
Budget?
Oh, we're not discussing budget tonight.
No.
Well, I can answer the question. We don't, not 40%.
Oh, it isn't?
No.
I really don't see any reason to keep the building open. It sounds good as far as being able to move. The class sizes you're telling me won't be increased, and you're not cutting programs, and it would give you another $630,000.
And I would like to add, if I may, that's $630,000 every year it's not open. So if you do a 5-year projection, that's $3 million that we save.
And I do understand that a lot of these decisions, as far as renovating it, and I'm glad you, in your presentation, indicated what was wrong with the building, so it had to be fixed up. I mean, you elaborated on that, and I thought it was good. But it still sounds like, and some of us maybe from the previous administration, there's certain, I don't want to call it mismanagement, but it isn't. It isn't that word I want to use. I would call it gross miscalculation. I don't think there was such a big change in enrollment. Because I know Mr. Bates at the time questioned whether that building had to be
I'll address all of that in one
Okay.
shot. If you have more comments, let's take them, and then I'll wrap that up.
I think that's it.
Okay, so in terms of when the renovation went forward and we shut the building down, there was discussion the following year whether we should even open the school again. And that conversation continued through 2010, 2011, and 2012. We've constantly looked at this option of closing the building due to capacity and the need to keep it open. Budget was one of the discussions for precipitating that investigation, but quite frankly, our enrollment, if it's projected to be 1572 and 1314, is right around somewhere between 2002 and 2003's enrollment before the Monocacy building was even constructed. So, in terms of whether or not we need the extra building, I think the enrollment numbers speak for themselves.
And I was glad you also documented the potential for developments. That doesn't mean they're necessarily going to happen, but that could bring in some more. So it wouldn't make any sense for me to sell it, lease the building and get some money out of it. But it does still seem strange that $9 million was spent, and now 4 years later it's not needed. Thank you.
Laurel Reno, Buckhead Lane. I understand with the numbers, I get that. Moving K through first and second grade over to AIC and kindergarten to Monocacy is where I have a question. Because if you're going to take the students from APC and move them over to Monocacy, now from the back I couldn't see the red rooms that you had marked for Monocacy, but from the back it looked like they weren't the kindergarten classrooms that have the bathroom. And based on the numbers right now, you have 2 kindergartens at APC and 2 kindergartens at Monocacy. There are only 3 classrooms with bathrooms at Monocacy. So you would be moving a classroom, at least one kindergarten would be in a room that doesn't have a bathroom in it. Why couldn't they be at AIC? Therefore, eliminating the need to send extra bus routes into developments to pick up siblings, one to get on a bus to go to AIC and one to get on a bus to go to Monocacy. That's a cost, and has that been figured out into your savings in closing APC and moving the kids? And if there is room at AIC for a kindergarten, why not move them there so siblings can ride together, gives parents peace of mind knowing that maybe their kindergartners on the same bus as their third grader. There are latchkey kids. That way they're getting off on the same bus. I can tell you right now, my son fell asleep every day on the bus coming home. Thank goodness his sister was on it to wake him up when they got to our bus stop. My other comment on closing APC is the community has paid for this debt and is continuing to pay for the debt. Therefore, the community still needs to have access to that building. As you know, many organizations use the gym for various functions. So even if the school is not using it, I do feel that the community they should still be allowed to use it, as we are still paying for the renovations and the use of that building.
Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate it.
I'm going to, Laurel, before you leave, I just want to, the comment you made about the elementary bathrooms is accurate. The way we have the floor planning arranged is that if you're aware of the 2 classrooms that are right there on the first floor, the bathrooms are right close by the room. We realized that we could not guarantee every kindergarten student a bathroom in the room, but that bathroom would be right there 10 steps away from the classroom. So if this goes through, we would put those kindergarten classrooms right next to those bathrooms there on the first floor. And in terms of your comment about the buses, we did research that, and I do understand your reasoning. We just did not feel that AIC was ever built with the intention of kindergarten kids in mind. And we were able to work with the bus company that guaranteed us that there would be no cost increase to implement this plan as presented.
Carolyn Barnett, Pleasant View Drive. I just wanted to comment on Laurel. I have a student who's going to go to kindergarten and a 5th grader, so I prefer them all being AIC than going to NBC if it's at all possible. Just keep them together, pickups, drop-offs, riding the bus. I had my son went to NBC for 1st grade. That bus ride was horrible, and so just an opinion that I would.
And I would just like, it's a consideration. It's just our feeling at this time with the plan that we presented. That part of it does have a little bit of give in it. I think for the reasons that I already mentioned, we believe it's workable that way. And again, one of the considerations is that if we keep the kindergarten in AIC, it really pushes the upper level of the total capacity of that building. We'd like to avoid that if we could, to balance out the enrollment in Monocacy with the enrollment at AIC. So that's kind of the reasoning that we had. We're not locked into that yet. Obviously, a final decision.
It's just nice to keep.
Understand. I understand.
Schools have 3 K-5 schools, and
I understand completely.
keep the families together.
And thank you for that comment. At the end of the day, this is a hearing, so we can get this kind of feedback and take this into our consideration. So we appreciate it. Is there any other public comment? I'm sorry, sir. Could you speak up a little bit so the corporate...
Frank Rowan,
Frank Rowan?
R-O-W-A.
Okay, did you get that? Okay.
My biggest question is the savings you have for head custodian and the operating cost. What will you be doing with the building if it does get closed?
You want to take that one or you want me to? I mean, if the building remains closed, at some point, we will have to continue to maintain the building to some degree. You can't leave the building just shuttered up. We'll have to maintain some heat in the building in the wintertime. The lawn will need to be tended. The building will occasionally need to be cleaned. I would imagine, I'll let Dr. Otto speak to this, that maybe once a week or maybe even more frequently, we'd have somebody go through the building at least once to make sure everything is okay. And we're not going to just let it sit there and go derelict. It is an asset of the building. We have spent considerable money renovating. We do want to keep it nice.
Right, obviously. So then technically the money that is budgeted to be saved would not be that exact amount.
It will fluctuate based on the usage, actual usage of the building. The number that you see there, I think it's $45,000, was a total shutdown number. But some of the commentary that you're making is one of the reasons that we are recommending that the administration occupy that building so it does not sit empty. And then even with our occupation of it, there would still be opportunities for the district to lease out considerable amounts of space in that building, gain some revenue. It would also allow us to, as Mrs. Reno expressed a little while ago, it is our intention and plan to keep that open for community use because we do have a number of organizations in the community that would still, I'm sure, like to access this building. So that's kind of what we're looking at with that whole situation. You're welcome.
Any other public comment?
Good evening. David Rathgeb, R-A-T-H-G-E-B, for Mimosa Circle in Mimosa Mill.
question, I would guess that if we are, I would say to gain back the same population that we had lost as a minimum when we were fully operating all of the buildings, I'm going to say in the neighborhood of 400 more students, because I actually think we can absorb a few extra students over the next couple of years just with this new arrangement before we would have to reopen APC. So I'm going to, I'll do some more research on that, but my back of the napkin number at this point would be about 400 students who we would want to say that we would want to reinstitute use of that building. And the fact that you brought that up, if you would picture a scenario where we would just say sell the building. I don't know what the market is for the building. That is obviously something we'll explore as part of this process, because I guess if we get the right offer, we might consider it. But what you're looking at is the potential, if we get an explosion of this board, maybe a future superintendent coming back to this public and asking for $25 million more to build a new elementary school. That's why we're suggesting this in the first place. This is a long-term financial stability issue. If we are able, and I'm just going to project because obviously a lot of this is projection, to keep this building and the enrollment doesn't go up for another 10 years where you don't have to do anything, take 10 times 600,000. You've saved $6 million of taxpayers' money over a decade. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it does seem to make sense. I was just curious at what threshold we have to.
I would think 400 about, because that's
which gives you a nice cushion. Which gives you a nice cushion. And also, I assume, I know you have in here that cost of renovating the high school for the administration. I would think there would be some costs involved with renovating to make it feasible for administration to go over to APC.
None.
None, really?
None.
And
that's why I wanted to emphasize in the frequently asked question where I said we have to repurpose the high school for administration. It's not intended to hold an administrative office. We had actually started to draw up blueprints and to put together some preliminary plans to do that. For some of you that may have been at our facilities meetings where we considered that, we put the stop on that after the board asked us, in light of the $5 million gap, to go back and look real hard at where we might be able to find other revenue. And that's why this plan came forward. So to go to the high school is a minimum investment of $85,000 to get that to the point where it can be effectively used as administrative space.
Very good. But yes, I would definitely recommend keeping the building, because I do think at some point with the potential development, especially in Amity, that those students could come back. So, thank you.
Just for the record, when we called Amity Township, if you're familiar with these names, Golf Estates, High Meadows, Breath Woods Edge, Pondview, Glenwood Estates, all of these are real developments on the books in Amity Township. You can check it out. They represent 300 potential new homes, residential properties. Residential properties bring children. It did before in this district. It does almost everywhere it happens.
And just as a reminder to the public, I mean, the final disposition of the building is really not a discussion tonight. We'll have that discussion after the board renders a decision on whether or not to keep the building open or closed. Any other public comment?
Hello, my name is Nick Hunsicker, Hunsicker. I was just wondering if you were to move the kids from APC with the saved money that you guys would get, how would you go about, I know there have been talks about cuts with programs in the high school, like extracurriculars, and I know that for me, it's very important for me to get to the college that I want to go to, and with cutting extracurricular activities, it would lessen my chances of where I want to go to. So I was just wondering what you would do with the money that you were going to get from where you went to.
Mr. Hunsicker, I appreciate your question. Right now, we're really not here to have a discussion about budget and how we would or wouldn't spend saved monies. I think tonight is just a discussion about why we're considering closing the school and to receive feedback from the public on whether we should keep it open or keep it closed, and what would we do with the building if it were closed. It's not really a discussion about how we're going to spend money that may be saved, because if we ultimately decide we're not going to close the building, there is no savings. So I would save that question. I know there's a lot of uncertainty with that particular issue, and it's a very emotional item, and it is something the board is trying to address in our budget discussions, but it's really not germane to this discussion tonight. Okay. Mr. Schott, you know the rules, right?
One question.
Okay, go ahead.
Maybe you're addressing this before adjournment. What happens after this hearing?
There's okay.
Maybe you're doing that before adjournment. I just like to know what timeline.
Under the public school code, there has to be at least 3 months waiting period between tonight's hearing and the final decision of the board as to whether to close the school or have the school remain open. So they can't make a decision for at least 3 months.
Okay, and actually, now that we're at that section, I just had a quick question for you, Mr. Comer. 3 months from now is May 4th, which is a Saturday. So I would assume that the deadline is actually following Monday, May 6th?
Yes.
Okay, so for the benefit of the public, May 6th would be the earliest that this board would render a decision on the closure of this particular facility. Okay, are there any other public comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Make a motion? We need a motion to close?
Just a couple of things I wanted to point out to reiterate what we just talked about. As we've reached the end of the public comment portion of the hearing, we've now fulfilled the obligations of the school code. As I just pointed out, the board will not be voting yes or no tonight regarding the contemplated closure of the Amity Primary Center. Then no action can be taken earlier than 3 months, or as Mr. Basil said, May 6th, 2013. The board can't take action tonight, and it won't. But what the board will do is contemplate the comments that were made tonight and make a reasoned decision. Please note that any action at the school board will have to be taken at a publicly advertised meeting of the board, so there will be public notice. I'm sure that notice will be published on the school district's website as well. And at this time, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Mr. Basil, motion to adjourn.
Second. We have a second. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Barnum, we're going to say goodbye.
All right. Bye.
Yeah.